It's an honor to be here. Chairman Lundgren, Ranking Member Clark just came into the room. Thank you. Chairman Belarakis and Ranking Member Richardson for holding this joint subcommittee hearing. And I know that this committee particularly appreciates the fact of trying to coordinate situations, since there's 4 or 5 other major committees that have to deal with this legislation, and we're going to try to address that bureaucratic nightmare, which is in my throat and in Mr. Chairman Lundgren's throat. How we do that, I don't know. I want to recognize both Chairman King and Chairman Thompson. Chairman King and I worked diligently on this, as you well know, had bipartisan support. The last session, unfortunately, we did not get this bill because we could not get cooperation beyond this committee, and that's where it stood. I also want to thank the committee for inviting Sheriff Burdick from my county, Passaic County, who sits right behind me. He'll be testifying in the next panel, along with 2 distinguished other members, other individuals who have contributed so much to what you all agree is the most serious threat to the United States of America. I know that the Sheriff will be able to provide you very valuable insights into the role that his department plays in preparing and responding to a terrorist attack. The folks on the ground, the boots on the ground, are the first to respond, not the federal government, in a catastrophic situation, and that is why he is here to testify. I want to discuss the WMD Preparedness and Prevention Act of 2011, which Mr. King, Chairman King, and I have introduced. We will introduce tomorrow the actual bill. I'm proud of all the work that went into the legislation. I'm especially proud that it is bipartisan, and I want to say, Mr. Chairman, that the staff has been very, very helpful. We had another meeting yesterday in which they just were terrific. They understand the issue. They are sensitive to the bureaucratic situation which we face, and we're trying to get some ideas on how we're going to have an end run and get this thing done. Because while we all say, you know, this is important and significant, we haven't figured out the strategy of getting it through and getting it passed. But I understand leadership wants this. So I hope, with your great influence, Mr. Lundgren, Mr. Chairman, that it will get done. Last year, Chairman King and I came together to craft this legislation based upon the WMD Commission's report, World at Risk. Just as we need to read the 9/11 report, we need to read World at Risk. It is a tremendous document put out by former Senator Talent and former Senator Graham of Florida. I think this is must-reading for all of us who want to protect this country. They gave us a report. We had some real sobering findings when we read it. We had to go back and read it again to make sure that we were reading what we were reading. They're finding that under our current readiness, this attack, as you referred to just a few moments ago, Mr. Chairman, is likely to occur before 2013 or by 2013. It gave us pause, all of us. Gave us a sense of urgency. Urgency is a tough thing to deal with in Congress, regardless of who is in charge. Today, even after the death of Osama bin Laden, we know that terror groups like Al-Qaeda are still out there probing and plotting attacks against Americans. They cannot, and they continue to be committed to obtaining nuclear and biological weapons regardless of where they come from. Both Mr. King and myself, being members of the New York, New Jersey region, are too familiar with the devastation and the tragedy that surrounds an attack with a weapon of mass destruction. Sheriff Burdick was a 9/11 first responder himself. We have to do everything in our power to ensure that nothing like 9/11 ever happens on our soil. The thought of a WMD attack anywhere in our region is too horrific for words. We realize that. Using the Commission's report as a guide, Chairman King and I first introduced this legislation in 2010 with the support and endorsement of the commissioners. While our bill passed this committee, it unfortunately was never considered in the entire House. This is unacceptable, Mr. Chairman, as you said, quoting you. As the WMD Commission stated in the report, it is unacceptable that now, nearly 10 years after September 11th, we do not have a comprehensive national strategy to counter the threat that WMD poses to our country. And no one could put it better, Senator. 1 year later, and hopefully a little wiser, there's hope, I hope we will swiftly consider this by this committee, this legislation, and that jurisdictional turf battles will not stop the full House and Senate from passing the important legislation as soon as possible. Prevention, preparedness, protection, response, and recovery. That's what this bill is all about. It contains some important new provisions I would like briefly to highlight. It addresses the findings from the Government Accountability Office on the state of our biodefense enterprise and creates an entirely new top-down approach centered at the White House. This includes establishing a new special assistant to the President for biodefense, who will be responsible for crafting a federal biodefense plan and putting together a yearly cross-cutting biodefense budget, which will help streamline cross-agency efforts and improve efficiency. It includes a new provision that would allow the Secretary of Health and Human Services to make surplus vaccines with short shelf lives from our strategic national stockpile to our state and local first responders. As we all know, our police and firefighters are on the front lines of our Homeland Security. And if there is a biological attack, they'll be the first ones on the scene. Ensuring that they are vaccinated will not only prevent them from harm, but better enable them to assist others and other victims and perform their jobs. Passage of the legislation is not a silver bullet that will fully immunize us from the threats that a weapon of mass destruction poses to our country. Our first responders still lack a nationwide interoperable communications network. We've talked about it on this committee. We've had bipartisan support on this committee, and we still don't have it. It is not the fault of this committee. It is the fault of others in leadership, whether regardless of which party is in charge, of getting this through and seeing the significance of supporting and protecting the American people. Funding for our various Homeland Security state and local grant programs that help at-risk areas prepare and secure sensitive infrastructure are under severe funding constraints. We know that. But we must not back off what our responsibilities are. As the original member of the Committee on Homeland Security, created in the wake of those attacks and representing a district that lost 40 souls in the attacks, these issues are near and dear to my heart as they are to you. The committee, Congress as a whole, and the executive branch must be committed to doing everything in our power to ensuring that something like this never happens again. And we do know, Mr. Chairman, that when everything's a priority, nothing is a priority. And so I count on your diligence and your forthrightness and your perseverance to get this thing through. And whatever I can do and whatever Peter can do, as you know, the Chairman, we are at your beck and call. And I thank the committee, and thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank